session will focus on discussions related to role transition. At the end of the session, we will be able to apply the 4 major responsibilities of nursing: service, advocacy, teaching, and leadership, to the promotion of a successful nurse-consumer relationship, and compare strategies to facilitate a successful role transition. One of the things we can do to better prepare for the future is to understand the roles of nurse managers, whether we intend to be one or not. Knowing what they go through as they transition to a leadership role and how others can be supported helps all of us function in a more collegial way. We're going to focus on the 3 aspects about roles of nurse managers and how they transition. What you are going to learn is why the acronym ROLES is important to remember, how role transitions occur from the best to the worst, and how you can help yourself and others make those transitions. Organizations play a key role in assisting employees through role transition. Ewing indicates that role stress can occur when the workplace does not provide the scope and flexibility for the integration of new identities. Changes in roles can either be painful or exciting and depend largely on the work culture and support provided. At work, we can plan for most transitions, but there are exceptions. The chief nursing officer is suddenly terminated, a nurse manager becomes terminally ill, or a business transition for a spouse causes a staff member to leave. The key point is to be supported. Most people don't want to talk about job loss, and that unless you are moving up at the next employment setting, many places welcome new people with a bunch of rules and regulations. Like a piece of rope where there is no single strand, the roles of leading, following, and managing are intertwined. This is especially true for the manager. The transition from a staff nurse role to a nurse manager or leader role can occur overnight. So it's important to think about how roles fit together and how managers differ from followers. If you think about the acronym that's in your book, you can recall the key components of roles you may have seen throughout your career. R is responsibility, so each position has a specific task for which the position holder is responsible. In a well-designed organization, differentiation between and among positions is clear. In other words, when comparing position descriptions, it is possible to tell who is responsible for what. O for opportunities. Possibilities represent opportunities for a manager to influence organizational and unit goals. Organizations often offer incentives for creativity that help make a difference in the workplace. Lines of communication are discussed in the next slide. Expectations, it is important to have clear expectations. There is less role confusion. Being clear about your own expectations is really important. So additionally, you need to consider the expectations of others, your boss, your peers, and your staff. Each of those probably has a different set of expectations. If you are clear about your own, you can help others frame their expectations in reference to yours. Otherwise, you are responding to multiple and not necessarily compatible sources of input. Support will also be discussed in a few minutes. The L in roles is a critical one. It represents the lines of communication. While the manager may have many informal lines of communication, there are some that are very structured and formal. These include the up and down within the nursing division and the across with other disciplines and departments. Being able to listen and to speak clearly and intelligently are critical for success. Support may mean the difference between success and failure. Support derives from family and friends too. However, we can only control or influence what happens in the workplace. Setting up formal expectations for support helps transition activities. So making a smooth transition to the next role you assume depends on your personal strengths and abilities and on capitalizing on the strengths and resources of the organization. Although there are some common strategies to make transitions, there are some strategies that are unique to good transitions and bad ones. Although when the transitions are good, it is always wise to praise the predecessor. Theoretically, this is the person who is admired and valued. Capitalize on this to let that person know you know, and to let the team know how smart they were to have had this predecessor in place. Celebrate the person's accomplishments and be public about it. When transitions are not so positive, it is easy to get pulled into demeaning the other person. Obviously, that is totally unwise, if for no other reason than it creates staff distrust when they think they can be the next one demeaned. It is equally important not to cover up, rather than dwell on what didn't work in the past. The most useful strategy is to focus on the future and what will happen immediately to change the situation. Because the team may feel conflicted about loyalties or trust, one of the first steps should be to create the team. It is also important to think about whether you should be silent about the past, apologize that it happened, or simply moved on. Those decisions flow from the particular situations themselves. So for promoting success, it is important to recognize, use, and strengthen the internal resources of commitment, character, self-respect, and flexibility. You need to negotiate the role. Seek out a mentor, sponsor, or coach, and get further education if needed to be able to be successful in the nursing leadership and management roles.